Hello and welcome, dear ladies and gentlemen. My name is Abdullah Noor and I welcome you all to my chess channel. I will be analyzing master games and I will be kind of giving you my insights on these games, and also I will make sure you can take away something with you everything at the end of each video, and I'll make sure that we can both grow up to be good players of chess. So what I plan to do with this channel is not exactly a ground rule. As this channel grows in reputation, I will continue to bring more aspects into this. Suppose I will probably analyze some of your games and I'll show you some of my games, but that all depends on where this channel goes in the future. Alright, so given that this is my first video, I want to show you all a very special game. One of my favorites. This is by the legendary Paul Morphy. He's playing against the Duke of Brunswick, who was a German noble back in 1858. So this game was played in 1858. Morphy has the white pieces, Duke Karl has the black pieces, and I'll give you some history of this game before I start with the analysis. Morphy was a huge fan of the opera and the Duke of Brunswick really liked chess. So one day when Morphy was visiting Germany, the Duke invited him to watch the opera, and the only condition for Morphy was that he had to play a game of chess against the Duke. So Morphy decided, why not? You could just watch the opera that way. So he goes on with playing the game. So Morphy with the white pieces starts out with e4, which is the king's pawn opening. Duke Karl responds with e5, which is pretty common. It's like the best response to e4. Morphy plays knight f3, which is the king's knight variation, and now d6 by Duke Karl. Although this may appear to fortify the e4 pawn, I'm not a huge fan of the Philidor defense simply because it gives up the critical d4 square here for black, which white can capitalize on later, and also white has a knight out. So in the next turn, if he gets out his knight, white will have a huge advantage on development, and black on the other hand has none of his minor pieces out, so it's gonna be a tough game for black. Morphy responds with d4, challenging the center, and Duke Karl plays bishop to g4. So this pins down the knight to the queen, and although it was standard theory at the time, it would just be considered an inaccuracy today, because after d captures on e5 and e captures on e5, d captures on e5, Morphy could just capture the queen with a check, and then after king captures, Morphy could gobble up a pawn, this e5 pawn here, and now he's threatening both the bishop and the f7 square. And although it can be defended with bishop to e6 or bishop to h5, the problem is not this. The problem is actually that white has to waste one more move with the bishop, and after white can get his pieces out, white's gonna have a great game because he's up on development, and it's just gonna be good for Morphy. So Duke Karl obviously doesn't go for this. He instead plays bishop captures knight on f3. Morphy responds with queen captures on f3, and now Duke Karl captures the e5 pawn with his d pawn. Morphy plays bishop to c4, eyeing down on that f7 square, and Duke Karl simply responds with knight to f6, blocking out the queen's battery down to f7. But Morphy now plays an interesting move. He plays queen to b3. So what this essentially does, it eyes down the f7 square twice now with both the bishop and the queen, and now the queen is also attacking the b7 square, which is actually going to be pretty uncomfortable for black. And although it may appear that the knight can win this pawn here on e5, but if he actually does, it's a mate in two. The bishop can come down and capture on f7, and after the king moves to e7, it's queen to e6 checkmate. So obviously the Duke sees this and does not go for this. Instead, he plays queen to e7, protecting this f7 square so that after the bishop captures, it now has two defenders. Morphy, although, could capture here on b7 now, and many experts say that this is the best move. But actually Morphy doesn't go for this simply because after queen captures, although it may appear that Morphy is winning this rook and this rook is trapped, it's actually not. because after queen comes down to b4 with a check, it's now attacking both the queen here on b7 and also the king here on e1. So Morphy has to capture the queen if he doesn't want to lose his queen, but then the bishop is guarding this queen here nicely. So a trade of queens is not Morphy wants. He wants to end this game quickly because he wants to watch the opera. So instead, Morphy focuses on development. He plays knight to c3, yet more pressure on the center. And now Duke Karl plays c6, which is, I feel, a weird move, given that it prevents the knight from coming down to c6, and the knight, although it can come down to d7, you're wasting one more move and you're not focusing on development. But it does protect the g7 pawn, but then once again, you had no reason to protect it, simply because even though you're down a pawn, you could trade it for some activity. Morphy's queen here is pretty active. It's gonna be quite a threat for the king later on in the game, as we will see. So what Morphy plays here is bishop comes down to g5, pinning this knight to the queen. And now the duke responds simply with b5. What this does is it attacks the bishop, and any normal player would go on and bring his bishop down to d3 and e2. But I encourage you to pause this video and to guess the best move for yourself, the move that Morphy played. It's a wonderful move, so you'll thoroughly enjoy it if you actually guess it. Alright, so what Morphy played in this position was knight captures on b5, sacrificing a whole piece here. So Duke obviously accepts it, but you'll see what happens if the Duke accepts such a sacrifice, because Morphy is a dangerous player. Bishop captures on b5 with a check, and now Morphy guards with knight to d7. Morphy simply castles, bringing his rook into the attack. Now two pieces are attacking his knight at once, so Morphy simply defends with rook to d8, I'm sorry. And now Morphy goes for yet another exchange sacrifice. Rook captures knight on d7. Now obviously Duke accepts it. He plays rook captures on d7, and now instead of capturing with his bishop here, Morphy plays rook to d1. Once again with a double attack on the rook, and now Duke Karl plays queen to e6. This would normally seem like a great move, because what he's doing is he's actually provoking a trade of queens. Morphy's queen is really active here on b3, but well, Morphy does not go for this. One more thing it does is it stops the pin on the knight. The knight now defends the rook beautifully, because like now two pieces are attacking, but three pieces are actually defending. But as you can see, this will turn out to be it will be a pretty bad move for black, because now Morphy simply plays bishop captures rook on d7, and now after knight captures bishop on d7, it's actually a mate in two. I encourage you to pause this video and find out what Morphy played from here, because it's simply a stunner if you can guess it. Alright, so if you're done, I'll show you what Morphy played. It's queen to b8 with a check. Beautiful, beautiful position. Now the king has no more legal moves, and the only thing Duke can do about this is capture this queen with his knight. That's what he does. And now comes rook to d8 with checkmate. Wonderful spectacle of pieces. Just look at this. The king has nowhere to go. Morphy only has two of his pieces remaining, and these two pieces are working beautifully to give checkmate. This bishop here is inactive. The knight here is in its original position. The rook here is stuck on h8. Black did not castle. Although white's down a ton of material, just look at how beautifully white has set up black for this checkmate. So wonderful, wonderful game. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do like my analysis, you can leave a thumbs up or even subscribe to my channel. I will upload every Saturday, so if that's something you look forward to, then you can subscribe to my channel. So peace. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you.